twin flame methodology. I wanted to talk with you about that because I just don't think that you're stupid. I take it you're very intelligent, and we're just going to talk about something here that is like mostly behind the scenes normally, and like my thing, as a teacher, like how can I guide you? And it has to do with a method with which I can guide you. So there's a lot to say about that, and we really can't put that in one video or anything. But there was like a renewal of interest in a certain aspect of that in my own story this summer, something that caught my attention. And I just got into this space like, yeah, maybe you and me, we can just talk about this, and it might make sense to you, especially if you're going to be my student soon, or you are already. And yeah, again, I take it you are very intelligent. So let's try to talk about that, and it will make sense to you. I trust that, and it might even help you to be discerning about who you should buy coaching from, etc., right? Where do you buy it, and where does it make sense? And why could it make sense to buy it with me? And that's also what this methodological talk sort of is supposed to address, I feel. Another thing that we're going to talk about is something I think that we're going to return to in other forms, and that is a book. And it might be a book that you are aware of too. It's a twin flame book, and I think it's rather popular, like on Amazon and whatnot, as ebook or as paper book, or at Bol, or in your local esoteric bookstore. And I think this is one of the most popular books about it, potentially. I don't even really know, because listen, I'm not here looking out for books about it. I wrote my own books. I've always written my own books. I have my own methodology. It was already given me by Divine Mother. But I also, already having guided people to harmonious twin flame union, the consciousness state it is all about, I also keep on developing myself and keep on going through new phases in which so much falls into place even better for me, even still after 10 years of well, testing and doing what I already have, okay? So, because sometimes you just, you get into a new phase and you feel like, oh, something just feels to be falling into an even deeper anchor here or something. And that is just interesting, and it's inspiring for me. And then I can maybe also bring it to you and say something in a video that might inspire you too and bring you to more clarity. So that's what it's, I suppose, about. So the book that I want to talk about as well a little bit, I actually would like to do a review about, maybe in more future episodes, maybe even like more episodes. I'm not really sure yet, because I think it could be interesting to just give you clarity. I'm not saying that this is the best book ever. I'm not saying that up front at all. I'm just saying that I found a book that was inspiring me to talk to you about things. And it's this book. It's from Patricia Jodry and Pressman. What's his name? Maury D. Pressman, which is a man. And they wrote, well, this is a Dutch translation, which is my mother tongue, Twin Souls. I think it's the title in English. Find your true spiritual partner. So I think the author, Patricia Jodry, that's really what you will recognize it from. And it was like in a special way that this book found me, because, well, it was not even a week ago, and I am also like settling into this summer and into the Lionsgate, and it is always coming down upon me with like huge spiritual downloads and beautiful new feelings to discover, also where I am on the journey and whatnot. And then via multiple ways, I was guided suddenly to visit this place that I know from the 90s when I was a teenager. It's actually just in the city center and it still existed. I saw on my phone when I was close by and I wanted to buy some incense. And then suddenly the angels were talking to me because we just had been doing the angel card reading for Twin Flames in the Lionsgate that is on my channel. Is a video, it's a long video, and with the angels, and then the angels guided me suddenly to go to this store and that I should not just buy incense, but I should buy archangel incense, which I'd never even heard of, or that wasn't even a thing. So, but I was guided to go look for that suddenly, and well, much more magical things, but let's leave it here. So I went to that esoteric bookstore of my childhood, and that was so inspiring to me. And I found the incense, and I bought 6 packages of it. But here's the thing: I felt so guided, and the angels were so like guiding me. It was so thick laid upon it, that this was what was going on. So it's like, okay, well, send me 2 more things here in the store that I may need or something. And I found some more things, among which this bracelet, landscape jasper. I think that's what it's called. Very grounding, so really cool. Like grounding this new wisdom coming to me. So that was really great. But more stuff. And then also I was guided to look at the books and was like, oh yeah, you know what? Would they have a book at all about twin flames, And which one would that be? And I actually haven't read that many books about it or anything. I created my own books about it, because Divine Mother gave me the thing that I needed to pass on via so many intricate spiritual happenings and real life happenings in my life, and that has already been, it has already happened, I already guided people to the full results as well after it had been transpiring for myself. So that was like not the reason, but I was suddenly like in a new fresh atmosphere, like, yeah, let's be curious. Like, this is like, I'm going back to my childhood, and I remember I actually had a book from really a different bookstore. And looking back, that was actually a twin flame book, but it was not a twin flame book. It was about like deeper love of partnership or something. And I just held on to that book, and it was very poetic. Well, I was a poet too, but that's another story for another day. I just remember that I had that book, and then one day I just gave it away because I just gave away lots of my books because I just had too many books or something I found in another season of my life. And I couldn't tell you what it was, but looking back, that was really, like this book full of longing for the true soul partner that comes when you have done like loads of initial inner work, and then that partner comes, so that was actually maybe like the twin flame, but it wasn't called like that in that book. Well, that was just a memory that came to mind, but that was also from my childhood, my teenage time in the 90s, when I remember also visiting this esoteric bookstore all the time. Or like all the time, like now and then, and it was like really magical to me, but I actually didn't really know yet what the heck I was doing there. Not exactly, but I somehow had like an intuition anyway. So it was very special to be in that bookstore and be like, yeah, maybe I can just find this connection back to my teenage self, my teenage inner self, and to make that whole and to find something here, today. And maybe they have a book about twin flames, and which one would that be? Maybe I can be open about that. Maybe it can be even a nice experience. Let's just have a nice experience, It doesn't matter if I was already given the teaching and I already spread it and it already worked. Maybe I can just have a nice experience. So it took a while before I found this book on the shelf, but there it was. And it was this one. So I bought it, of course. And I was like, yeah, so maybe I can, review it in a video or something, or in multiple videos, because I was already thinking about reaction videos to maybe other twin flame videos of other people, or maybe like it wasn't like a new idea that was coming into being where I was at that moment, not even a week ago. Like maybe I can review this book, and then it'll be just an educational experience for you, because I think it's a rather popular book. Maybe you have read it as well, and maybe we can talk about if it's true, if it is actually true. And maybe it is not so bad because I don't know these people personally. And maybe that's good. That's how I was like reasoning for myself. But when I came home and I brought the book home and I started to read in it, I was actually pleasantly surprised, because I found out that it cites from my own books of my last lifetime. I think from this one, in which I was Elena Petrovna Blavatsky. Oh, this is another book. I think from The Secret Doctrine. Anyway, so yeah, I think. And well, there's more to say about that one, but anyway, maybe we'll get to that in like future videos that I probably will do now, isn't it? They cited from my own past life's work in the book about twin flames, and I was like, oh, maybe this is so healing. It's not even healing about my teenage years, but it's like healing these lifetimes together. And it felt so good. I mean, I almost start crying now. I'm trying to get to the actual topic, I promise. I guess we just need to make these videos now. So, well, here we go. Anyway, so it was so healing. I was like, you must be kidding me. So later on, I found that it was a citation from that, the individual becomes so deeply submitted to the spiritual development, like throws themselves so deeply in the vortex of the divine, that you become one with the divine. And that is a specific moment. And then they compare that to the moment with which you become one with your true twin flame in union. And then they say that it's similar or the same experience, which is true. So they almost sort of clarify my own work from that past life. But it wasn't like ready yet to talk about that topic, I suppose. Although we could also make another video, another conversation about where it is in that whole oeuvre, because there's much more than only that book, and where the connection to the twin flame is in that oeuvre. Not only my work of this lifetime, but that lifetime and where that is. Maybe we'll talk about that too. Let me know if you want to know that. But so the actual short answer is that there was a complete connection with my true twin flame, because I wrote these books in and for the society that I had with my true twin flame. And I wrote that I came to the full realization of these things that I spoke about in the books when I had met my true twin flame, and we formed our teaching coalition, so to speak, our teaching formation. We were both teachers. And I could only do this and say this and bring this together with my true twin flame. So, yeah, we did it together already. And then you can speak about the reality of falling into that moment of becoming one with God as your individual soul unit, which is actually the union, how we speak of it today. Anyway, so I was completely overcome by that they cite from my own work. And I was like, oh, this is much more than only I'm going to make a review about this book. This is just so healing. It's just bringing it all together. And then I started to read a little bit more in it. And then I started to think about methodology and how it really works. So via this book, I could speak better about my own methodology and how it really works. Because what I see is that she indeed, the way she speaks about the twin flame phenomenon, well, we're going to talk about that. There's a lot of truth in it, but it's not completely true in all details. And she speaks about it in a certain regard, in a certain methodology, in a certain way, in a certain aspect of what twin flames are. And that is indeed the aspect of what twin flames are that is very close to my heart, and it is very close to my past life's work, and it is very close to the philosophical and spiritual movements that came out of that past life that are still alive today, which she says that she loves. And you can see that in how she speaks about things, and it's very close to my heart, and I completely, I vibe with that vibe or something really beautiful. But then in a sense you can also see that it was like still not completely figured out in all the details to know how to make come true being with the twin flame early in the journey, and connected to Christ consciousness is much more direct and much more matter of fact and much more like detailed in having the ultimate answers about who the true twin flame is and who not and stuff. And that's something that we weren't there yet in my past life. And this is like a couple decades ago, like in the 80s and whatnot. Is that true? That she wrote this and stuff? Sorta. I think it was first published in 1993. Okay. That wasn't yet fully the time in which we could go there. So where I'm speaking of now is indeed like a leading edge thing, even relative to my own earlier work and also to the work of Jodri. That's like weaving further on where I left it off in the end of the 19th century when I died, having left behind these pillars of books that people all have been weaving more things out of. And they even say that the whole the entire New Age religion wave sort of comes from it, which does not mean that everything that the New Age says is my responsibility, nor is it my fault. And there is much fault in it. So, okay. That's another story for another day. So you can see now that what I'm speaking of is actually, well, since I started talking, I have been speaking of it like this. I was already in a very far stadium when I finally started to make videos about this whole stuff and whatnot. Because it took me years and years to be able to have the guts to do that, because it's very difficult to stand up for something so precise and vulnerable and spiritual and whatnot. Anyway, and that is that. I actually have been talking about it. Like, there is a way to talk about twin flame union that is very precise. And that is also connected to the fact that I have always spoken about that I have had a time in my life, a couple years before I finally started to make all these videos, in which I have been co-creating with the new Christ Masters on Earth right now. And they sent me to Christ consciousness. the underlying teaching of all Christed masters in a way that is alive in the now. And they just clarified all these things that earlier were in like this beautiful, magical, deep, in very many ways true, soup of consciousness things that Jodrey still talks about. That we're still weaving new weavings of like what I did in the 19th century. So, new conclusions. Some sort of. So this is actually like the methodological thing that I talk about. This is maybe how you could see it. There's like, so this is like talking about souls and talking about the world soul and talking about how they can become in their development one with God at a certain moment, and what that all entails and what it is and what soul growth is. And that's also what Patricia Jodrey does in the book very much. She just talks a lot about what the inner teachings are concerning your twin flame gender, divine masculine or divine feminine, and what the inner movements are that you go through to work that out, and how beautiful that is and how deep, and then she has examples and whatnot. And I really vibe with that. You have to understand that I really do. I vibe with that. I think it's beautiful. It's wonderful. It's what I know. It's what I always felt attracted to. It's kind of soul development. It can be very magical and very poetic. I was a poet too, and I used to like write about all these beautiful landscapey things that are actually saying things about relationship, and then they were actually about the relationship with yourself and with God and with the lover at the same time, and it was like very intricate and beautiful. That was my poetry, but I also experienced things like that. But Patricia Jodrey, she really says beautiful things that are actually also kind of organized, and also organized by this man. He's called Maurice D. Pressman. And he is a psychiatrist, or he was, and well, she's passed away as well. Which, by the way, makes it more easy, like, to speak about them in a certain way. Because you're not like, criticizing people that are around or something. But there are many angles to that. Maybe we'll get back to that. There are many angles that I sort of think about before I start to do something like this. Anyway, we'll get back to that. This psychiatrist, he also comes in and has knowledge like about like how you at first you may be only superficially acquainted with your idea of your sort of sex identity, like you're female, and then it becomes really like not enough dimensions to encompass the depth of the true twin flame journey, or even life. And you start to say, for instance, like, I'm a woman and I actually see that I'm going to be more successful if I do as if I'm actually a man, because I will attract more money and life and whatnot when I'm like fighting for it and whatnot, as if I'm a man. And then your gender awareness becomes very different, but also very unbalanced. And that's not how you can attract your true twin flame. And if you do, you will get into trouble with them, because you're not in your genuine, deeper, divine feminine identity. You are sort of fighting their masculinity, right? I'm just talking about myself now as well, but they really talk about it in the book as well. And then you need to go back to your own deeper feminine power in a new sort of depth. And they need to go through that movement in themselves too. And then you can start to be together in a way that is more lasting. So this is like very much like this process of how things develop and how they will too, and then talked about with examples and whatnot. And I could completely see myself in that, in my twin flame too. And I think it's beautiful and it's so profound and it's really true. But here's the thing. That's like this methodology. This part of the methodology of what twin flames are. But there's a whole different set of things that is possible. And maybe you think you're also thinking in that layer, and you're only thinking in that layer, and you're like, yeah, so what's the point? Let's order a reading of a beautiful twin flame reader, and they say something about if I'm already in my deeper feminine power or not, and maybe I should work on that more. And I work on that aspect of myself, and one day it will fall into place, and one day my twin flame will come in. But what about now? What about doing the development with them? What about being sure that it is them, that is the true twin flame, that can't be made undone anymore? You're so sure about it, that's just it. What about the right consciousness state underlying all of these developments? That kind of questions. They can't be addressed from that viewpoint. And that is also how in my life and my experience, and now also my experience as the teacher, things became fully rounded and complete. And that is because there was another methodology that partners with that methodology that answers all these questions and makes it very precise. And it can't be made undone anymore. And it is the true twin flame. And you know that very sure. And that is the other part of the methodology. And that is what I got acknowledged through my connection with the Christ Masters on earth right now. That taught me that harmonious twin flame union indeed is a full thing. And is reached by, indeed, the tools that Divine Mother had already given me around 9 years before that, 8 years before that, something like that. And that is like a consciousness addition or something that otherwise wasn't reached yet. And that makes it full, and that makes it concrete, and that makes it complete, and that makes it so that you can be with your twin flame now, not only at the end of your journey or whenever you're fully done all these inner movements, but now what you want. And you stick it out together, going through all these developments. That's what you want. That's the way to be together with them. And while it sounds like stick it out with them, it doesn't sound very, very happy, but it actually is. Sorry that I say it like that. Well, sometimes it can feel a bit like that. Temporarily, you know. While it is very divine in essence all the time. So that's like the other half or something, you know. And that's also what I say, because even when I say I got the tools from Divine Mother around 2011, and I eventually created the key tool with it, the key to turn around the door so that the door to union really opens. And you step through it and it all is said and done. Finally. And when you hear me teach the key tool, I have also, since years already, I have talked about, I have version 1. And that belongs to this department of the methodology. And I also have version 2, and it belongs to this part of the methodology. You could also say the Christ Masters methodology, the magic methodology. You could say the divine masculine mind-attuned methodology. You could say the divine feminine energy-attuned methodology. But this just gives it another entrance to talk about this. So there you go. So maybe you think like, yeah, I'm just in all these developments and it's so beautiful and so deep. And maybe you even find teachers that can do something with you in it. Well, here's what I do extra. Here's what I do different. Here is why you can have it now and make it very concrete and be incredibly clear about it and have it established so that it never can be made undone anymore, and all these very concrete things. It's this. It's that it's updated via the Christ Masters in the now consciousness. That is actually also like backed up by Divine Mother. So, and this book is really like an example of like that theosophical, and nowadays they say anthroposophical, which was like from a student of mine that past life. This is all that these terminologies refer to philosophies connected to my past life activities that are still well known over the entire earth, this is like a fruit of that. And it still refers to what I feel very strong about and what I experience. But what made it come true and what brings me to come to you and say that we've got the thing here, that is that I have the combination of these two things. And that really makes it like a fully rounded thing that has been like beyond concrete and very precise. So that's like a methodological discussion that I hope brings something to you. And let's in future videos talk more about this book. And let me know if you read it. Is it indeed famous? And I'm still reading in it. See, I'm halfway. Yeah, and let's see if we can, speak about more things so that more things start to make sense for you. And why what we do here works, why it helps, and yeah, the beauty of both methodologies and that they come together here, right? And that really is like the secret sauce to everything, because the promise in that whole theosophical past life still giving fruit thing that I came here with, still always in the world right now as well. The beauty of it is that it completely got updated by this new experience of meeting and co-creating with the Christ Masters on Earth right now. And it had that promise in itself already from 1.5 centuries ago, that was where we were going, and also why I brought this whole theory forward for people to be prepared via this way, to like prepare for this new time coming in, where it's much more available for everyone, and like it would be updated by something new coming in. And then the relevance of it all might also become like, well, updated, right? And that has already like happened in my life now. That's why I speak to you via video. It already happened in my life. I met the Christ Masters. I still co-create with them, everything we do now, but then in spirit. That's how we were designed to do things. That also had to come into being. I didn't know that up front, but that's how it is. And that's where we're now, and that's why it is like that right now. So I hope that helps. And yeah, let me know again if you know this book, and if you would like to see me make more videos about that in the future. Much love from Petra.